Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'd like to indicate that I will seek to respond in some measure to some of the issues which were raised by the opposition. And if I may as well, be allowed to start on one such matter, because matters ought not to be left hanging, which might be misconstrued or which could be taken without proper references. I think the member for number 2, Madam Deputy Speaker, spoke of a note or a statement which I had written some 30-something years ago in reference to a constitutional position of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I wish to say very clearly that I sought to get consensus on that position. But even those who are criticizing the position on my opinion, not one of them made any effort to consider an adjustment to straighten it. So I would aver that they thought that I was speaking somewhere out in left field, and it suits them to now seek to resurrect something which is really, Madam Deputy Speaker, for simply to be provocative. I will say no more than that, to be provocative, because we have heard over the years, Madam Deputy Speaker, of concerns about the Constitution. We heard from the very party of which the member for number 2 is a senior member and has been a senior member for many years, talked of constitutional reform and all of those good things. Maybe if she were to look back at the archives which she went to find that concern which I had raised, she would probably see those concerns raised there, but nothing was done. So I want to just put that to rest and to trust that if we are honest in our discussions, that we would, as the member for number 8 speaks, that we look at the context and that we look to see, really and truly, I have a criticism. What did I do about anything which I'm now criticizing? Madam Deputy Speaker, I also want to look at some issues which caused quite a lot of stir earlier today when accusation was raised at members on this side or this government in respect of victimizing, terminating people, and things like that, seeking to show that this government does not care about people or does not have the interest of the country and the people at heart. We heard of a few instances, some of which unsubstantiated, because I want to have her as Minister of Labor, and having worked with people for most of my life and having had some training in human resource development and things like that, that we seem to have gone down a very bad path in the last 20 or so more years, and that we have established something akin to entitlement, that people who work for government, regardless of their performance, regardless of their attitudes, regardless of their discipline, regardless of their output, that they are somehow sacrosanct, untouchable, and are not to be corrected. No action is to be taken, while persons like those continue to undermine and to stifle the performance of the government in their individual corners.
Yes.
And I'm saying that, Madam Deputy Speaker, because we keep harking about things like performance and talking about efficiencies. And those are noble and very commendable attributes which we want to inculcate in our people. But we will never be able, Madam Deputy Speaker, to inculcate and get those to be the manner in which our people act if we continue to condone indiscipline in the public service or any other establishment for that matter.
Yes.
No matter how lowly it may appear that the job they're doing is, there has to be a modicum, a more than a modicum, has to be a parameter of discipline which governs how people function and respond. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. And so when the member for number 2 and others seek to bolster persons who may have been disciplined, whose performance has been questioned, and seek to blame ministers of government for wanting to make the public service, which we all say we want to be more efficient. When we're out of government, we want it to be more efficient. When we're in government, we want the same thing. But for some reason or other, we are not honest enough, as was the member for number 2 and the cohorts who were supporting her outbursts, not wanting to say, if one is being paid to do a work, regardless of what work it is, that work must be done efficiently.
Yes.
Otherwise, action will be taken.
Yes.
Whether the person is
Convenient.
an established worker appointed through the Public Service Commission with the approval of the Governor General, or in Nevis as it were, the Deputy Governor General, or the person is any worker, a government auxiliary employee who may not have been appointed through that process but is employed anyway and receives a salary and therefore, in a way, is contracted to perform a certain duty. We must not condone it, Madam Deputy Speaker.
We can't condone it, not because we're in a position.
It must not be condoned. We go through that. I've gone through that many, many times over because I've had responsibility for labor in Nevis when I was there. I mean, my tenure is going to end maybe on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just before the election. But it's one of those things which I feel is paramount, must be paramount. When people criticize the country's rating at being, quote unquote, the lowest or low in doing business. When we talk about the country and the workforce not being productive and people not performing, I want to put it on the table here in this Honorable House that what we heard today is contributing, and they can continue to contribute to that level of low productivity. And therefore, it affects the economic output, it affects the level of incomes which people can earn, and also on the other hand, people are getting paid to do less than they should do, and some men do nothing. But those of us who are supposed to be managing ought to say nothing. Now,
Sound advice.
that, Madam Deputy Speaker, is something which has to be looked at. Because the budget as presented, I heard very little being raised about the budget and what it is expected to perform. You know, a matter was raised on Thursday, just before I left. I listened to the leader of the opposition presenting his response. And his response was premised on manipulation of figures. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, the member for number 6, leader of the opposition, ought to understand that when one sits to prepare a budget, you are in fact looking at your best estimate, There's nothing except even the expenditure, which you have some control over, sometimes defy you, because then you might need to change that as time goes on. As the volume of work increases, you may have to change it. The revenue, over which you have little control apart from setting the levels that people will pay in taxes, or business licenses, or other services. Even those, not even those are outside of the direct control and therefore can only be estimated. And then you have other extenuating circumstances which might cause those revenues to fall or not to be as productive, or the revenue collection not as productive as you would like. But then if you have a situation which creates that negativity that causes the revenue to fall down, sometimes the converse occurs in the expenditure, depending on what happens. So you have a widening of the gap. Again, and these are things that I really would like us as leaders or representatives of the people who should have an understanding of how the public service and public finance works, to be more responsible in our presentations in this house. I said it is, for me, symptomatic of I will say anything, I will do anything, even if it is not allowed by the law. Provided you're in the house, you'll say anything, do anything, because you want to get rid of the government, or you want to, quote unquote, make the government look bad. But what that does is it diminishes those of us who engage in that practice, unless we are prepared to bring hard evidence. If somebody is dismissed, did the member for number 2 and her cohorts ask the person, well, why were you transferred? Let's start with transfer first. Why were you terminated? What were the circumstances? Because it is not that easy to terminate people, you know. The labor laws, even within government, we have to be careful.
Yes.
There are requirements which must be followed. But I want to go back to the thing of discipline and attitudinal difficulties which we have sought to encourage. Lack of discipline and bad attitude, which has been encouraged by people to stymie the development of the country. And the Ministry of Labor, we have sought in our discussions for the last 2.5 years to establish a greater understanding among the partners, the tripartite partners in this country, to get a better understanding of how the labor market should function, how we expect, if we want to see an increase in wages, an increase in salaries, if we want to see an increase in other benefits, that there has to be an increase in output, an increase in the earnings of the country, an increase in the GDP, an increase in the gross national income of the country. Otherwise, those matters are going to have to be put on the back burner. And that is what the IMF says. I don't think they say anything more than that. And all of the fanfare about IMF and central bank and all of those things, the whole picture must be told. And we are seeing that backlash, a backlash, because too many of our people feel they have an entitlement and they therefore don't have to work, or they come work late, or they come to work and they sit on their computers and they do what they feel they should be doing for their own little personal thing, their WhatsApping and all of those things, which are not conducive to productivity in the country. And we have to stamp it out.
Yes.
We have to stamp out those kinds of things because it affects the type of budget and the type of revenue and the type of quality of service which the government can provide if we don't have a change, a positive change in our attitude to ensure we have greater output, more efficiency, better performance.
Yes.
And I'm saying that, Madam Deputy Speaker, because when we speak to the representative of employees, the unions, members, representatives, when we speak to the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the representatives of the employers, they are both agreeing with the unbiased position which the government through the Ministry of Labor is seeking to bring to ensure we have the harmony and we have the environment in which there could be growth in the economy. We are even saying to the chamber, the representatives of employers, who are the persons who, or the group, the private sector group, which we are calling upon and which we are collaborating with to create greater opportunity in the private sector so that the government can employ everybody. And the government, in every single economic theory, every single economic process, we always say the government must not become the employer of last resort. That the private sector has to be the engine of growth that is creating jobs, creating value, and so on. But the complaints we are getting from the private sector, for people in the private sector, employees in the private sector, are similar. And nobody must touch them. Go to work when you like. Leave a little bit before close of play. Spend time on your computer, sending out WhatsApp, criticizing government. And when it is brought to the attention of the relevant minister or people, we must do nothing. How could that be just and fair? How could that be just and fair? I have a case in Nevis where a gentleman who went to a particular college, I will not call the name of the college, and got a 4.0 what grade? Yes, with GPA. 4.0. Now, but I'm not going to say anything about his ability to write and so on. I won't go down that road because I'm assuming that having gotten a 4.0 GPA, that writing and reasoning ought to be part of the everyday activity and way of behavior. That person got on because the chat sound good. They're banging the hell out of me. Pardon me for saying that. We can't talk about corruption because somehow Vance got $1 million put in his account. Personal account. And talking about government land, I have government land. No, I see that. And I recognize I have a serious issue. But before I put my lawyer on the person, I took the matter to the public service. I asked for the matter to be brought by the PS, not by me.
Yes.
Not by me. I don't get involved in that. And that's what the AG was saying today. AG does not go around telling people you're fired, don't come back. That's not how the system works. And members opposite, no.
That's not how it ought to work. That's not how it ought to work.
That is not how the system works.
That's how it ought to work. That's how you used to work.
I am saying, well, member for number 8, we know what used to happen.
Yeah. That's what happened.
We know what used to happen. But I said, the PS calls a person and says, listen, hey, what you have done here is tantamount to great and gross disrespect and libel.
Yes.
I asked him to send it to the PS. Does that make me part of the decision of terminating or transfer or promoting because he has done something nice? Doesn't make me that. You're asking the system to work. And that is what we need to respect in this country. And when the budget says they're trying to put people first, that is an aspect of putting people first. You want to move people from a position of feeling that they can do anything, anytime, anyhow. And nobody must say anything. That cannot be good for the country. It cannot be good for the person. It cannot be good for the person's family. And if the person has children, it's even worse. Because the question I want to ask the member for number 2, who is not here, what example is that person setting to the children by doing things which are not proper? Going to work late. Yeah. So what? The budget said, listen, we want to have a change. We want to educate people. Minister for Education, member for number 5, spoke about the programs to get our people to move a step higher in their ability to process information and to reason and to think. That is a serious, serious challenge which we are facing in this country. So, she talks about the mother who has 5 children. Maybe next time she comes to the house, she would say that she went and spoke to her and she found that her record was impeccable, that she went to work early every day, that she did everything she was asked to do and did it well. That'll be fine. And that is what we have to begin to get persons who call themselves or who are called to represent people to do. You cannot pitch your marbles or your speech or your challenge to the lowest level of human behavior. And that is what this budget is doing. You go through this budget, Madam Deputy Speaker. I heard this morning that the budget doesn't say anything about young people. It says nothing about old people. It says nothing about anybody. I don't understand that. Because I read it and I went through some of the sections. And it talks about on page 22, 41, about creating opportunities, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise development. What does that speak to? Sometimes a lot of things come out of our mouths and we don't, especially from the opposition, we don't mean anything that we say, The private sector has to be the engine of growth. But the budget speaks to energizing, putting money into creating these micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Who are those for? What are those for? For whom? And to whom is that supposed to be appealing? It's appealing to the bright young people who went to school, studied agriculture. Some of whom did home economics and craft. Some of whom who did business studies, who did EDPM, how to sit down and work out different things. That's what he's speaking to. Opportunity which, if followed, could get them to set up their own businesses. A young person with a business idea could get assistance from the government through a government agency to make a going business of his or her idea. That is what you're doing. This budget is saying, please, we provide the opportunity. Come and let us help you to empower yourself. Because you really can't empower somebody. They're either going to take the step to empower themselves so the opportunity you've created,
That's right.
or nothing will happen. It will go back to the same old, that the government trying to give you a handout.
Yes.
We want to see a change in the attitude of our young people. Education is there. We want to see them take advantage of the training they get. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, is not training just at the school level, because there are ongoing programs for those who want to, if they've gone to school, even if they've had 5, 6, 7, 8 CXCs and 5 CAPES and whatever else, there are opportunities for development of themselves, which will help them to mature and grow into becoming productive persons in the community. And this is what is important. I just want to read, just in case the members opposite might think I am just talking for the sake of talking. It says here, this is important because the small enterprise development system is important. It's an important aspect of my government's development agenda, as we firmly believe that a strong presence of thriving SMEs, small, medium enterprises, in our business community would redound to positive returns and advancement of our people.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
They didn't read it.
Why, therefore, should those of us who claim to be supporters and want to see people do well not encourage them to take advantage of the opportunity created?
You understand?
Why? And that is what the people out there must begin to ask themselves, and stop letting, as I'm sure Minister of Education and his PS and his Principal Education, Chief Education Officer, and likewise in Nevis. We don't like to know that when you would have taken somebody through CXC level, even if they don't get 10 subjects, I mean, you should have taught them how to reason, how to think, how to be able to handle information which they get.
Yes.
But at the same time, those of us who are leading have a responsibility not to mislead them,
Yes.
or seek to mislead them.
Yeah.
It goes on to talk about the National Entrepreneurial Development Division, NED. And it says that NED has remained active in devising new opportunities to strengthen the development of the SMEs. And that's in paragraph 43. In paragraph 44, it says that NED is also collaborating with Compete Caribbean, a private sector development program, to provide technical assistance, grants, and investment funding to support these same micro, small, and medium enterprises in a number of countries across the Caribbean region. There's an agreement with St. Kitts and Nevis. And I said, it created for me a little stir when I listened and heard that nothing is there for young people. It appears as if the members opposite who spoke to this issue and had some vociferous support, albeit misplaced, feels that the government must say to each and every one, listen, come, this is what I want you to do. You go and sit down there. And maybe that's why the PEP was created, you know. And the PEP created a serious difficulty. And those who wish to use the fact that this government, Team Unity government, is seeking to make the adjustment to get our people to rise up and become more responsible citizens, ought to feel ashamed
Yes.
that they even seek to criticize it.
Yes.
And this is really where I think we have to begin to look and see what is happening in this country. I want to go down to paragraph 45, because paragraph 45 speaks to some very important matters. It speaks about the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis continues to contribute to the overall development of the Federation by helping to advance the agenda for financial inclusion, particularly in the area of access to credit. So there is that opportunity. You have the idea, you want to get in there, you've been educated, you've been trained, you have a skill, you have some organizational ability, you want to do well, and so many young people have been doing that in the last year. And I'll go down, Madam Deputy Speaker. It says, over the years, the bank has provided an important conduit for improving access to credit for people who would not ordinarily qualify to access credit to start up or expand their small businesses. Who do small businesses? TDC, Hartsford? The ordinary people who want to do, whether they want to do grass cutting, landscaping, or whatever it is, or they want to set up a little craft to make jewelry for the tourism industry. They want to go up to the mountain and get some mahogany wood and create some value out of that wood, create something of value and sell it and expand their business. Minister for number 8 spoke about the young man and his mother and his family who, from the West, I don't remember exactly where, who created a chips production business.
That's all his son has done since he left school.
And I want to say that those are the kinds of things that we need to encourage our people, and not just keep saying to them that the government ain't doing nothing for you. That's not true. The government has an important role to provide opportunity, and that is what this budget is speaking to. I'll just go down. It says further, as at August 2017, not August 2019, 2017, a couple of months ago, 735 loans with a total value of $49 million were approved. 735 loans, small people. That is what the bank is there for. And that is what the bank has been doing with the support and encouragement and direction of the government.
Yes, ma'am. That's what's happening.
And we go on further. During the period January to August 2017, $32 million was allocated to agriculture. Wow. Hear that? Industry and commerce. Wow. $8.4 million to personal development. $5.9 million to mortgage financing. And $2.7 million to higher education. As of August 31st, 2017, the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis had a total loan portfolio of $309.2 million, with $109.6 million dedicated to agriculture, industry, and commerce. So what should be our song? What should be our direction as representatives of the people, whether it be from number 2, number 3, number 6, or number 11? I missed what number 11 was saying because I wasn't here. I was doing other business elsewhere for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. But I really would, well, let me forget about number 11, because he and I in the same boat. We're out of elective politics, so let me leave him to rest. I'm not going to say rest in peace, because that's another connotation. But what more can a government do than provide opportunity? But also government hires people.
Yes.
Hire them under the STEP program.
Yes. Teach them.
Talk with the employers. Encourage them to offer apprenticeship systems. Offer training to people in the different skills or different areas in which they may have an ability to grow. That's the whole object. And those who don't know about it, the STEP office is right across the road there, so Send the people there. Instead of condoning, I almost said foolish behavior, but no, I don't mean that. I'm trying to find a nice word. Instead of finding this dependency, this entitlement attitude, send them there and say, listen, I believe you can go to the step office, put your name on the list. Tell them you want to be a hairdresser. Tell them you want to be a culinary chef. Tell them you want to work in the hotel. Tell them you want to work wherever. And let the STEP program take you to the next level by offering the training and the connection so that our young people and those who are unemployed, not necessarily just young people, can move a step further on in life and help to improve and increase the GDP and the earnings. That is what we should be doing. The matter of schools, you know, when I listen to the non-argument about the Bassi High School, I asked the AG, tell me something. Under whose watch was the Bassi High School closed? Under whose watch was the shift system introduced? I'm not even sure if the AG answered me because I think he expected I should know. And these are the things that we must not allow people to come in the house and misrepresent. And this, and I'm not going to have any attack on NIOSH because we have to use them because they're part of ILO and so on. And we need them to maybe do some training for us, for our Department of Labor. But to come and say that NIOSH say that they did not do soil testing because they didn't think it should be done, it's an argument. If I hire you to do something for me because I want to be satisfied that problem is, or that area is not creating the problem, then do it. Do it. You can't just jump up.
You come to the doctor to give you surgery, the doctor assesses that there's no need for surgery.
You can. When you come to the house, you don't know what's happening under there. What should you tell him?
The doctor tells you what is needed.
They say you hire somebody to do something.
A routine of doing things just to satisfy whatever you want to achieve. When the doctor knows,
Madam Deputy, you know,
that's the problem you have with an argument. Non-argument.
Madam Deputy Speaker, you are going to say you don't do the study.
Which has been done before.
And any sensible person who has been asked to do an assessment, even if there were assessments done before, errors could be made. Errors could be made. Things could change. Changes could be made in the conditions which exist as against the conditions which existed. Right? Errors could be made, and therefore we're saying to those who came, satisfy us that when we make a decision, we know that you with your expertise.
Satisfy you?
Well, who are you going to satisfy if I hire you?
You're going to the doctor to do a surgery, the doctor knows no surgery is to be done?
You just wake up now?
What are you talking about? You're talking about cheese and I'm talking about something else.
Please.
You're just being, oh, I almost said something not nice.
No, don't let him distract you.
He's not going to distract me. If you want something done, and we are saying in this country that we would like you to give us and satisfy us.
It has been done time and time again.
Man, if you want to think, raise on the point of
Madam President, I am saying that the argument was trying to justify something retrospectively, which cannot be justified. Cannot be justified. And we, Madam Deputy Speaker, we are of the view that what we heard today was seeking to prove in hindsight.
Yeah,
Hindsight.
that's right.
And now want to say to the people of the country, right, that they should not get their new high school or their new facility. And that, madam, so we go back to the matter of providing facilities for our people. You're talking of skills development and human capital expansion of two types. You have the intellectual and you have a mix, because people can be intellectual and also be very hands-on, practical. And then you're working at the skills training, so the TVET program, getting people to take the opportunity to have themselves qualified so that they can take the jobs which will be created and which are here, and to have people stop complaining that people from elsewhere are coming and taking their job.
Yes.
And it comes down to an attitudinal problem. Forgetting that we have signed on to an arrangement. And I have to tell people all the time, I don't want to get into trouble and go before the CCJ, right? For a breach of any of the treaties which govern the CARICOM. I don't want nobody to drag me there, and I don't think anybody here wants to be dragged there. We saw what happened with Barbados and the Shanika Myrie case. But what we need to be saying to our people, you have access to education, relatively free.
Yes.
You have access to training, skills training, whatever area you want to get into. Go and get yourself certificated so that you can show here your CVQ, and therefore you qualify to take the jobs which are available, and do not allow and do not encourage your people not to do the training, not to take advantage of the opportunity to improve their status, and then have them coming and complaining. That's what we need. We need to change that attitude in our people.
Yes.
We need to change that. And I want to say, Madam Deputy Chair, that the approach of the members of the opposition in respect of the budget has nothing and says nothing about reaching out to young people and people generally, that it is wrong and clearly does not reflect what the budget is saying. The budget speaks of the TVET, and I'm sure Minister, and I said I have to ask for an excuse. When he spoke, would have raised the matter of the TVET. So I don't need to go into any details there. But what it says here is, we envision that the deliverables, that is from the expanded TVET program within the education system, at all levels, within the school system, outside of the school system, that under the TVET enhancement project would help to improve capacity within the education system to produce increasing numbers of skilled and well-rounded persons to satisfy the requirements of the labor market. The budget is clear on that. And if you go to the provision of financing for the program, it is there, funding with the help of the CDB. It is there because it is the avowed position of the team unity government. The Ministry of Education, led by member for number 5, that we need our people to rise to another level. And we need them to so equip themselves that they will not have to be complaining about not having jobs or people coming and taking their job. That is what this budget is seeking to do. I say, the complaints are not going to solve our problem, Madam Deputy Speaker. And when you have persons going to the media, just, again, engaging in complaints and criticism which is unfounded, and criticizing for the sake of criticizing, it creates a problem because there are those who are looking for the reinforcement of their own bad behavior and bad approach to life. They're looking for that reinforcement. And we are not to condone that bad reinforcement. I want to go on a little further because housing and human settlements, Minister number 8 spoke about it. But just to make two references, the FRESH program, the HELP program. To whom do these two programs speak, and for whom were they created? And who is benefiting from those? The people. And I will just read and say one or two little things here. It says here the FRESH, that is the funding for realization of economic empowerment through subsidized housing. They're just saying that you need people to be able to own their own house so they can have dignity and they feel good. That's the FRESH program. Facilitate the construction of 43 homes through concessionary interest rate program provided through the St. Kitts and Nevis Anguilla National Bank. So you're involving the private sector in this process. You're getting people to say, listen, I have income, I am being facilitated, concessionary interest rate, I go to the bank and I can then own my own property. What does that do? It provides for the individual, the family, a certain amount of pride in their ownership of their own space, their own home. And it lifts that family to a level which they can feel that they can make a contribution and they are worthy citizens of this country. We look at the HELP program. Has been largely successful in providing housing-related assistance to over 200 persons. To keep this program going, my government intervened and requested the assistance of the SIDF to replenish the facility, which the foundation graciously approved in an amount of $2 million. So the government goes out, seeks the funding to create a pool of funding to finance the housing needs of the people. And we're getting that. The budget says nothing about people. We're not putting people first.
The Prime Minister's family first.
And I just wanted to deal with those matters. There are others, but to be quite honest, Madam Deputy Speaker, I think it is one of those things which we have to be very careful of, and I thought necessary. Now, we look at Social Security, and very briefly, because in the new year, Madam Deputy Speaker, maybe before I go to Social Security, let me go back to something to do with labor and people. Because as I indicated, we're looking to strengthen the collaboration and the cooperation among the partners in the tripartite arrangement. That is the government, the employers' reps, the employees' reps, so that we can have that harmonized movement forward and remove all of the tension. Get people who hire workers to understand that they have a responsibility. To get those who work and offer their labor, their intellect, whatever they offer to their employers, to recognize that they have also a responsibility. That is where we are. And we have earlier this year established formally the tripartite committee reps of 12 persons who are charged with moving this process forward, of getting, as you heard from the Attorney General, the labor code which will govern all of the behaviors, the conditions under which the labor market functions in St. Kitts and Nevis. And in the new year, we would like to bring to this House even a draft, even if we have to make adjustments created by that tripartite committee with expert legal help so that we could move, as it were, more expeditiously and efficiently into the 21st century in respect of labor relations and satisfy the international standards, which are the standards by which we would want to be judged. So that is something which we will certainly be pushing very, very seriously. And as we go forward with the tripartite committee and the Ministry of Labor, the partnership between the Ministry of Education, with a lead role in terms of training, running the education and training institutions in the country, and partnering with the Ministry of Labor, so the Department of Labor, headed by the Labor Commissioner, so that we could have that kind of cohesive policy. And again, directed towards what the country, what capacity, what skills we want to see provided as we go forward with the development of St. Kitts and Nevis. So that will come in the new year, as will matters from the Social Security. Social Security will, in the new year, be celebrating its 40th anniversary. And in those 40 years, the institution has grown to become a major mainstay of our economy. And I will quote, Madam Deputy Speaker, from the preamble of the Act. And this is what it says about the Social Security and the law which governs it. An act to establish a system of Social Security that is to provide pecuniary payments by way of various benefits to insured persons and social assistance by way of non-contributory old age pensions to insured persons and other persons who do not qualify for benefit. And that is where the Social Security has been very capable and very adept. And one of the areas that we want to look at is how do we ensure that when we look at the reform, the review, the assessment of what Social Security is doing, that we take a balanced approach to ensure that while we want to ask Social Security to increase certain benefits, we do not do so in jeopardy to the sustainability. Now we have, and I have somewhere here the actuarial study for the up to 2014, which the Cabinet will study in the new year, will assess the recommendations of the actuary, will make on consultation with the technical staff at Social Security certain decisions to make sure that Social Security continues to be the sustaining mainstay of the economy by providing investment funding for private sector and for government development. Now, one of the issues which the actuaries or the actuarial study has pointed out is that the Social Security Board and the fund will have to look at diversifying its investment. Heretofore, Social Security seemed to have been directed towards purchase of land, whether land would be sold in another 100 years or not. Land which, in some cases, were overvalued, but because of who owned the land and maybe somebody wanted to help somebody, they bought the land off them. The new direction for Social Security, the new direction for Social Security is for Social Security to become a much more dynamic partner in the development of the country. And that will change the emphasis of where the investments go. Because Social Security has significant quantum of land up in Fountain Mountain, somewhere which is, well,
No.
where,
Is that the other side?
somewhere up,
Canada.
no, not Canada, it's somewhere else, I think up in the Monkey area, right? Which they committed to spend $18 million for.
Fountain.
Yes, I know it's Fountain, yes. And we're still in litigation, so let me not say much more. Because we feel that was calculated to be something like a sweetheart to bail out somebody. I think so, I know so.
No, that's not so.
Got land.
I know so.
Gotland, that's not Gotland.
Some of it.
Madam Deputy Chair,
You know,
what I'm saying is we have to change the focus of what Social Security
not
does.
Gotland.
And while I am on Social Security, permit me to put on record the
Yeah.
gratitude of this minister and the government for the work which was done by the just retired director, CEO, Mrs. Heflin Lawrence. After serving 20 odd years, she decided to retire. And there were other senior staff as well who have also reached the age of retirement. And therefore we're looking at the restructuring, getting new people into place, and making sure that the Social Security staff is adequate, capable of carrying on the work for which Social Security was created. But I want to just put on record that. I think the other person whom I really should mention was the newly retired Deputy Director, Mr. Rensford. And I think there's another gentleman who comes to mind readily. There are others whom I can't readily mention. Mr. Hamilton, who has retired. So you have those senior persons who have given many years to Social Security Board and that institution to protect, manage, and ensure that it remains. But we have work to be done to now take the focus to another level, to get the Social Security to assist with economic growth and development in the country. And in the new year, Madam Deputy Speaker, we will bring to this House a couple of areas in which we are expecting the Social Security Board to assist with new investment, to create activity, but also to do what the actuaries are saying, and that is to diversify their revenue stream so that they can have differentiation and they're not everything depending on contributions as their main source of income for the growth in the Social Security. Social Security in St. Kitts and Nevis has been, and I want to says, is the second highest benefit levels in the region, second only to Barbados. And this generosity, and this I'm getting this from the acting director, has brought its own challenges. And it is something which has been looked at by the actuaries. And they're saying we have to make certain that we maintain the ratios, make sure the ratios of revenue income, contribution income, and the cost of administration and benefits are the right mix to ensure the survival long-term of the Social Security as a trust fund for and on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I don't share fully the concerns of the actuaries. They're saying that the fund could go bust by 2037. I don't see that happening. Once people continue to work and the economy continues to grow, we will see an inflow of contributions. And once the management of the fund, its investment portfolio, is properly managed and diversified, I believe the Social Security Fund will continue to grow. We know we do have a population which is aging, and that people are living longer, and that clearly is a concern for the Social Security and the benefits and so on. But that's something over which we really have no control. So the control which we must exercise is how does Social Security invest? How does the government allow or negotiate or discuss with Social Security what sort of contributions would be leveled, what sort of benefits could be paid to make sure that it remains as a viable, sustained entity. The other matter I want to look at in terms of Social Security we're looking at, and we stand, and in Social Security we stand prepared to take a look, because there have been discussions. Some people have met me and said, how is it that Social Security is paying, say, something like $103 per month for children as their benefit when the court awards higher and fathers or whomever are expected to pay more? So we have to look at those things, and we have to ensure that we so balance them out that our people don't feel that Social Security is not responsive. And that is something which we want Social Security to be, and that is to be responsive to the needs of the people wherever those needs are felt and justified. And in terms of Social Security, I want to say this, Madam Deputy Speaker. It is not just about the money, it's about helping people to come out of poverty, to help people to feel that the Social Security Board, the institution, that trust fund cares about them. That really is the key. And we expect that once we have looked at the next actuarial study, which is due end of this year, so early in the next year, and we see the trend which the actuaries would have established, that we could come to this House with some new proposals to make Social Security as effective and maybe even more effective for the people of this country. How much time do I have? Do I have any time? I have some time? Okay, I do have some time. Well, allow me then to speak on another matter to do with labor, severance pay, long service gratuity, because that has become an area of much concern. You see, I do have some numbers here. Within 2014, and it is a process which the Ministry of Labor through the Labor Department is working to get employees and employers within the labor market, the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis, to have a greater understanding. I think some people don't fully understand what the severance pay process is. So we get someone severed for whatever reason, and they make a claim or have a claim made on their behalf. on his or her behalf. Comes in to the Labor Department, the matter is looked at, and somehow they do not know that there has to be a 3-month or 12-week period within which they are not to become employed. And if they do become employed within that period, the whole matter of severance payment is no longer being processed. Now, that
You think it should be revisited?
may be posing something of an issue. It is being tossed around. Questions are being asked by those who are severed because they are out of a regular income, even though they may get a little handshake from the person or the company or the individual who hires them. They seem to want to have the severance pay paid almost immediately. And some, so they go to work, and then that then stops the clock on the processing. In the Ministry of Labor, Department of Labor, we're going through an extensive process of educating both employers and employees, because we have some cases where employees are supposed to sign the request or the claim for severance, and they don't do it. And it's something that we have to begin to ask. Why do they not want to sign it? It is not as if what is the information there would jeopardize them. It asks about the time of the length of service and things like that. People's pay, all they have to do is to sign and say, yes, the information which has been provided is accurate. But they are resistant. And then it throws the burden on the department and the ministry to sign off on that matter. The law provides for it. But I feel that employers, if they're going through the process of severing someone, they are not to shirk their responsibility and not want to sign the claim. So it is one of the areas which we are looking to engage both employers and employees on, so that there is a clearer understanding of what this matter of severance, and also long service gratuity as well. Because what we are finding with the long service gratuity, which unfortunately there's no funding stream for it, and that has been it's law, but there's no funding stream created as you created the payment. That is something which has to be looked at. How do we sort of assist to finance the long service? But the challenge we have is this, that there are people who, yes, have served the 10 years or whatever, 20 years, and they're claiming the long service gratuity. But then they are almost immediately after that working somewhere else. In the same industry, sometimes ludicrously in the same place.
Your choice.
And that is something that we have to look at to make sure that this is not a process by which people are resigning, quote unquote, their good jobs or their jobs because they will get a long service gratuity payment and then going back sometimes to the very same place to work. And we have to find a way of dealing with that. And I think the conditionalities and so on may not have been thought through effectively, and we have to, again, revisit that, because I said it provides an opportunity for people who are resigning, claiming, and then when the payment does not come as quickly as they would like, they are badgering the Commissioner of Labor and others for their long service gratuity. There's also, and I think I've mentioned that in the House before, a lack of clarity in terms of the persons and the areas in which they are working for qualification for the long service gratuity. That needs some clarification, and we have been discussing this with the relevant partners so that we can get a clearer picture, clearer set of criteria which will guide the process to remove the doubt and the subjectivity from that process. So, just to go through a little bit, 2014, just to give you some sums, the long service gratuity payout in 2014 was $835,000 and $835,305. Severance payout for the same period, 2014, $5,807,501. In 2015, we find that the long service gratuity payout was $3,417,720, whereas the severance payout was $4,380,887. So you see the two areas are closing in terms of the payout. One funded through the contribution from the employers, the other one not funded, so it falls as a charge to the consolidated fund, and that is why in this budget, $5 million, an amount of $5 million has been appropriated for the covering of the long service gratuity. Let me look at 2016, Madam Deputy Speaker. 2016, the payout for the long service gratuity is $4,068,349. For the severance payout, $7,655,255. And in 2017, up to November, for the long service gratuity payout, we have $2,845,790. And for the severance payout, $3,562,095. So you see the amounts are getting to be commensurate. And on the one hand, there's some funding for it because the Social Security Board collects the contribution from the employers, and they provide that money to the Labor Department for lodgement with the Accountant General's office to cover the payment of severance pay, but there's no such. But again, this government has provided $5 million as an allocation to cover that area. Yeah. Madam Deputy Speaker, I think I just have one matter which I want to raise, and it goes to where I started. And it goes back to attitude, performance, productivity. And I want to, in terms of this budget and what this government is doing, we have invited an expert to guide the process of how this government and this country, not just the government alone, because we want the private sector involved as well, in putting in place a pay-for-performance system or structure which would make it incumbent on management and employees, make it incumbent that we get into the habit of assessing the performance and the output of employees. No longer can we afford, based on what is happening around us in the world, to have a situation where it's hit and miss and people feel, well, I go to work for the year, I have not worked well, but I deserve my increment. We have to begin to deal with that. And I'm enlisting the support, and this government is enlisting the support of all and sundry. And it does not have to be a contentious issue. It is a matter which would elevate our country, St. Kitts and Nevis, to a level which says that we are serious about being part of the international labor market, and that we are encouraging our people to take their responsibility, both as employers and employees, because it's on both sides. If you get no, what you might call, performer for evaluating the performance of your work, you can't just say they work good. That is, something has to be wrong there, because it leaves it in the realm of subjectivity and may lead also to bias. And we want to take those things out of the evaluation of the work which is being done in our country by all and sundry. So somebody cannot say, well, we had a case where someone resigned from a particular position because I've been working and I only getting so much. Big noise. So I said, okay, do you realize that within the whole country there are scales? Even if you go and work for a private sector, there are scales. If you're doing a particular work, you will get so much. If you're doing something else, you'll get so much plus so much. Until you get to become the boss. And you get plenty so muches. But people don't understand that, so we now have to begin or to find a way of getting that part of getting our people to understand and come to grips with and accept that there is can be an objective way of rewarding them, and they can be rewarded and know what that reward is when they shall have performed. So we have that, and we will share more, Madam Deputy Speaker, on that matter. I have the proposal which has been made to us of how this will be implemented or could be implemented, and as we get more discussion with the consultant, we will then find a way of bringing the matter to implementation so that everybody in St. Kitts and Nevis could know that the government is serious. And not just the government alone, because this will involve the private sector as well, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I think this, in a way, brings me to my concluding comments. There is much more, but if I start, I may overrun my time, and I think, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to just wrap up to say I think I started by seeking to challenge and enlist the support of the members of this House in opposition not to go down the road of condoning persons who do not perform, and if they have to be dealt with, disciplined, then for some reason somebody's doing something wrong. We have to go back to the root.
Yes.
We have to go back to the root.
Yes.
I'll say this because it's going to come up. It's going to come up. This is going to come up. We have a situation where an officer in a particular department was below par in performance, out sick, whatever it is. The person so okay, let's transfer the person to another department. So see if, there could get some output from the person. Complaint. Oh, I'm sick, I can't work here, I want to go work there. Well, if everybody say where they want to go to work, who is going to make that determination?
You understand?
And this is something we have to disavow and change people's attitude about. But anyway, so don't like being put in a particular area. Big fault, all kinds of things. We get a sick certificate for a month. Wow. Oh my God, how could anybody get a sick certificate and they for chop off? How they can't work? A month. So let's assume that the person gets better in the first week, or the signs of illness dissipate, lessen within the first week. The next 3 weeks is free.
Remember, for number 6, don't do that. Don't do that.
And we have to find a way of dealing with that kind of behavior.
Never did.
We have to find a way of dealing with that kind. I will say to this House, Madam Deputy Speaker, what I am suggesting. I've spoken to the Minister in Health, and I've said any unreasonable granting of extended quote-unquote sick leave which comes, I am asking the Permanent Secretary to refer it to the Chief Personnel Officer, to have that person who brings that extended sick leave, meaning that the person can't move, whatever. Oh my God, it is painful, but I will. Yes, I'm very, very careful. That is what I've said to the Minister. We will ask the personnel officer to send that officer to get a second opinion from a doctor which the ministry will assign to provide that service. But you know, what compounds the matter, and I want the House to know this. I went down to talk to the PS today, just to get some information which I raised in terms of the social security, gratuity, long service, and so on. And Madam Deputy Speaker, do you know that we have already a new 4-week sick leave granted? You're supposed to come back today, so you get a leave today to work for another 4 weeks, to be off sick for another 4 weeks.
So doctors,
That person must be well sick.
Now, if the person clearly is so well sick, and we determine that the person could be medically boarded, somebody gonna make some noise with us.
Just send them home.
Because
Just send them home.
I mean, my thing is, if you are unwell, claimed, certified by a reputable medical officer, you don't give yourself a chance. Well, listen, boy, I was out for 4 weeks. Let me see if I go back to work, if I feel any better. Now, the sad thing is the person is not in the environment which they claim is making them sick. They're home, or on the street, or out in the, wherever they are, not in the place which they are, which claiming is making them sick. So that is unreasonable. That is unreasonable. But you don't come back and say, let me see if conditions have improved and I feel a little better and I can work. Let me go in and see if I can work today. Before they even go back, they bring them another 4-week medical sick certificate. That is robbery, you know?
Person is well ill.
May I send a person to you? Well, no, you're not practicing. It's all right. No. No, but very seriously. And it speaks, Madam Deputy and members of this Assembly and people of St. Kitts and Nevis, to an attitudinal problem. The person wants to go somewhere else, and by malingering, I'm not going to say aiding and abetting, but malingering, claiming illness, can't function in this area, but want to go somewhere else to work. My assessment, as someone who's worked with people for years, if I don't get my way, well, I'm going to get trouble. I'm putting that on record, because when we ask for the CPO, not me, to ask the PS of Health to assign someone, another doctor, in the government's employ to do an assessment, that would be the second opinion.
Yes.
The second opinion. You know, people don't like second opinions. And we have to certainly, Madam Deputy Speaker, deal with these matters, because it is not helping the way in which we do business in St. Kitts and Nevis. And it is dealing with this entitlement.
Yes.
I can do what I like, and nobody can tell me what to do because I want to do this. And if I don't get to do this, I do nothing.
do anything? Get up, leave the phone and say, leave
Set
your
up there, the
office.
last God.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I am going to wrap up. I don't know if I have any more time left, but it really doesn't matter. The key is I don't have anything else to say.
Used to do that.
Even though I could say more, I really don't want to say anything else. I want to thank you for your indulgence and,
Teachers.
like the speaker before me, to wish all of the members of this parliament, the clerk, yourself, Madam Deputy Speaker, the attending officers, the stenotypist who I know has a rough time, a very Merry Christmas. Carnival and Christmas, enjoy. And all my constituents, I want to say to them, thank them for their ongoing support. And I said, we had nomination day today. And somebody called me and said, well, we didn't see you being nominated. Well, I told him I won't be nominated, so I don't know what the surprise is about.
Yeah, man, I feel it.
But what is important is this, that we have as a country to make sure that we set the best examples, that we do not condone people in not doing what is right. We don't condone indiscipline. We don't condone malingering. We don't condone poor performance, and therefore affecting the same GDP, the same national income, same output that we're talking about want to see raised. You cannot raise those things unless we raise the performance of our people. I want to thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and you have a wonderful Christmas as well, you and your family. Thank you very much.